As Michelle Begue's report pointed out, Venezuela's importance across the region, particularly when it comes to their oil reserves, have many leaders worrying about how the new president will or will not be working with their countries. And perhaps nowhere is that sentiment felt as strongly as in Cuba, a country that receives, by some accounts, $4 billion in oil from Venezuela annually. As our Havana correspondent Michael Voss reports, it's a situation reminiscent of another political shift that took place 2 decades ago.
Cuba pays a final choral tribute to Hugo Chavez. In the audience are the ambassadors from Venezuela and other countries in the ALBA alliance, the group of left-wing Latin American countries who've all benefited from Venezuela's oil wealth, none more so than Cuba. "We've lost this country's best friend," Fidel Castro wrote after the Venezuelan president died. Without Chavez, many here fear that the subsidized oil supplies could come to an end, just as they did when the Soviet Union collapsed back in the early 1990s. They called it the special period, with its widespread food and fuel shortages, and the effects are still being felt today. 150 kilometers west of Havana is the town of Cardenas. There are prominent sculptures on 2 of the main roads into the town which symbolize how people here and in the rest of Cuba had to adapt to those changing times. So they imported around 1 million bicycles from China, and today there are still more bikes in the town than cars. They also turned to horse-drawn carts, decommissioning buses and taxis in an effort to save fuel. Today, there are almost 2,500 licensed operators in Cardenas, and they remain the town's principal form of public transport. There used to be 6 local bus routes servicing this town, but after the Soviet Union collapsed, all of them were taken off the roads and replaced by these horse-drawn carriages. There were plans to replace some of the horse-drawn routes with buses once again, a move many believe is long overdue. But those changes are dependent on the continued supply of subsidized Venezuelan oil. Julio Blanco is a local writer and historian and remembers just how difficult it was back then.
No, el transporte local desapareció totalmente y el público para intermunicipal se redujo a una medida enorme y casi la terminal de ómnibus quedó obsoleta porque no había.
Are you worried about what's going to happen now with the elections in Venezuela?
Yo creo que pasará lo mismo que pasó con el periodo especial. Nos veremos la cosa negra, pero vamos a resistir. Puedo garantizar que vamos a resistir y aquí vamos a seguir.
There were similar sacrifices in the countryside. Guillermo Barreda has only recently brought his tractor out of storage and started using it again. Without fuel, tractors were replaced by oxen, and the most recent Ministry of Agriculture statistics show that about 250,000 oxen are now working in the fields today. Guillermo Barreda grows a root crop called malanga and worries that food production will decline if there's another fuel crisis.
Antes se preparaban trocitos de tierra pequeños. Ahora no, ahora se preparan cantidades. Bueno, ha crecido la población y hay que crecer el sistema de preparación de tierra también. No se puede trabajar con trayunta de huella, hay que trabajar obligatoriamente con tractores y la rotura de tierra.
The Venezuelan elections come as President Raúl Castro is trying to modernize Cuba's Soviet-style economic model. Now everyone is wondering what impact the results will have on the pace of change, speeding up the reforms here or slowing them down.
Our thanks to Michael Voss for that report.